I caught my nephew, whom I saw as my son, having an affair with my wife. Hello, I'm Andrew Morgan. I'm 48 years old. I live in a grand but aging mansion overlooking the Hudson River in Westchester County, just outside New York. When people look at me, they see a wealthy businessman, a successful art collector, and an exemplary father. But they don't know what goes on behind the curtains. Even if they did, they wouldn't believe it. My mother died shortly after I was born. My father soon moved to another state, leaving me behind. So, my childhood was spent in Boston, with my aunt and uncle, feeling like I didn't belong. I wore my cousin Blake's old t-shirts, and I wasn't even allowed to ride his bike. But deep inside, I always had something, a burning ambition to build my own life. And I did. I invested in the tech industry. Some ventures failed, but I eventually struck gold with a software company. I earned my wealth, my reputation, and a home in the city's finest corner. But life isn't just about success. Sometimes the greatest emptiness lies within, crowded homes. I lost my wife, Grace, to cancer 5 years ago. Our daughter Lily, now 15, became my only anchor. But loneliness seeps into your heart like an invisible ache. That's when Bethany entered my life. She was young, beautiful, vibrant. We met at an art gallery. At first, I only admired her. Then, I tried to fill that void with her. Before long, we were married. When Bethany moved into the mansion, the house felt alive again. Lily started calling her Beth. Things were good at first, until my nephew Brian returned to our home. Brian, my brother's son, but to me, always my own. His mother died when he was 8. I took him in, raised him, put him through school. Now 24, he's a sports enthusiast, sharp but rebellious. He just graduated college and started working at my company. I gave him a desk in the office, but he was always at home, under the same roof as Bethany. One Sunday morning, I woke to Bethany's laughter in the kitchen. When I went down for my coffee, I found her and Brian having breakfast together. At first, it seemed like an innocent scene, but then, those glances, that silence, the shadows in her laugh. Something stirred inside me. Maybe there was nothing in front of my eyes, but my instincts whispered that something was off. Bethany's laughter was too close to Brian, and Brian responded to her with an unusual focus. I got angry at the thought that crossed my mind. Don't be ridiculous, Andrew, I told myself. They're just family. Your family. But if the past taught me anything, it's that your gut never lies. And after that morning, everything began to change. After that morning breakfast between Bethany and Brian, things changed. Most of what I noticed were small details, but I grew up with details. I can read so much in the way eyes dart away, in the silences between words, in the half-formed expressions on faces. When you live alone in a house for long enough, you sense even the slightest shift. Brian now sat across from Bethany at dinner, looking directly into her eyes when he spoke. Even Lily noticed it. One day she said to me, "Beth and Brian get along well, don't they, Dad?" I felt a knot in my throat. I smiled. "They do," I said. What else could I say? One evening, Bethany sat at the piano. In the living room, she played that antique piano Grace used to love, a soft melody with delicate touches. Brian walked in. Their eyes met. It wasn't an accident. That look was deliberate. It lingered. Too long. I was in the corner armchair, like a shadow, but I saw it. A voice inside me said, "Talk to them. Be upfront." But a stronger voice whispered, "No. Watch quietly. Approach it with reason, not suspicion." I listened to the second voice, because the truth sometimes reveals itself only once, and you need patience to catch it. After that day, Brian started coming home later. When he did, he'd go out to the garden, and Bethany would follow with some excuse. They'd talk about flowers, or books, but their hands were sometimes too close. Their words carried weight. Time slowed around them. One night, I woke up. It was 2:47 a.m. The house was silent, but a restlessness gripped me. I went downstairs. The living room light was on. I moved quietly toward the kitchen. They weren't there. The garden door was ajar. I approached. Bethany and Brian sat side by side on the veranda. They weren't laughing, but their silence was too intimate. The invisible bond between them was no longer a secret. That was the first mask to fall. The next morning, I acted as if nothing had happened. At breakfast, I passed Bethany the orange juice. I handed Brian the newspaper, but the only sentence in my mind was, "I don't trust you anymore." That day, I didn't go to the office. I shut myself in my study and checked the home security camera footage. They were installed for safety. Everyone knew about them, but no one paid them much mind. Usually, they only showed the front door and living room. I rewound a few days. There was one clip. Brian, in the evening, takes a book from the shelf. Bethany approaches. She smiles. Brian plants a quick kiss on her cheek. Bethany pauses for a moment. Then, as if nothing happened, she heads to the stairs. Brian watches her go. In that moment, a veil tore in my eyes. I couldn't call it a mistake. The next morning, I sat at the table as if nothing had happened. I looked into their eyes, both of them. But this time, beneath my smile was a different man. I was now the one setting the game. I called Brian to the office. I gave him a new project, a temporary assignment in Boston. 2 weeks. This is an opportunity for you, I said. Time to stand on your own. His eyes challenged me for a moment. He agreed, but reluctantly. When I told Bethany, her face froze for a split second. "That's great. Brian will grow from it," she said. Her voice quivered. Another crack. With Brian gone, an odd silence settled over the house. Lily was spending time at school. I locked myself in my study, checking the security cameras daily, scouring past footage. I was trying to pinpoint when their affair began. The first glance, the first touch, the first betrayal. What was the breaking point? Bethany started showing more attention than usual. She'd bring me coffee, sit beside me, try to chat. But there was tension between her words. Whenever Brian's name came up, her eyes darted away. And with every fleeting glance, I grew more certain. On the 10th day, Brian returned early, unannounced, flowers in hand, a loose smile on his face. Bethany met him on the veranda. They embraced, brief but far too close. That moment was recorded. I watched it on the camera. I replayed that silent conversation in their eyes over and over. That night, I couldn't sleep. Storms raged inside me, but I still wanted to be sure. I kept telling myself, maybe I'm wrong. But that thought was defenseless now. And the next morning, the truth would hit me like a slap. That morning, Lily wasn't home. She had gone on a school trip. The house was quiet. Bethany had made breakfast. Brian was lying upstairs. I sat at the table, sipping my coffee. I had a plan. "Beth," I said, "I'm thinking of moving to Boston with you, away from everything, a fresh start." Her face went pale. She dropped her fork. "Boston? But what about things here? Lily's school?" she asked. I smiled. "Everything can be arranged. I just want to know what you want." She couldn't answer. She walked off to the kitchen in silence. Moments later, Brian came downstairs. His face was tense. Both of them were eaten up inside. It was time to speed things up. That day, I secretly updated the cameras. Now, not just the living room, but the veranda would be recorded at night as well. Days passed. The silence remained. Until that night. It was Thursday night, 11:41 p.m. The house was still. But a faint creak from the veranda caught my attention. I turned to the camera. Bethany and Brian. They were in each other's arms, not speaking, just getting lost in each other's eyes. Then they kissed. A long, unapologetic kiss. My eyes welled up. But I didn't cry. because the pain I felt was deeper than tears. Like a mountain crumbling from within, I quietly collapsed inside. In the morning, I acted like nothing had happened. Lily was back. I made her breakfast. Bethany couldn't look me in the eyes. Brian had left early. That day would be the day of reckoning. That morning, I called Bethany to my study. I held a USB drive in my hand. It contained just one video. I placed it on the desk. "Watch this," I said. My voice was cold. Her face went pale. She plugged it into the computer and started watching in silence. When the nighttime footage of her and Brian appeared on the screen, her breath caught. She began to cry. "Andrew, I didn't know it would come to this. It all spiraled out of control." Words were inadequate. There's no love in a home without loyalty. Without trust, a relationship is a lie. "You can't share this house with me anymore," I said. "I won't tell Lily the truth, but you're leaving." She understood then. It was over. She packed her things and left quietly. The regret in her eyes was real, but it no longer mattered. To Brian, I sent one message: "Don't ever come back to this house." Brian didn't reply. He didn't even come for his things. The last I saw of him was that night on the veranda, a shadow frozen in regret, left behind in the past. Everything I had tried to suppress for months exploded that night. Bethany was crying on the porch. She held a suitcase, her face in ruins. Lily was inside, unaware of anything. In the dead of night, I told her, "You can't stay in this house anymore." My words were like blades. When Brian arrived, he found me waiting. He tried to step in. "Andrew, please listen. I lied to you, but I love Beth," he said. At that moment, something inside me shattered. I didn't lose my calm, but I did lose a part of myself. "I loved you like a son," I said, "and this is how you betray me. Get out. Don't you ever step foot in this house again." Bethany tried to say something behind Brian, but the words caught in her throat. Brian gave me one last look, eyes filled with rage, regret, and pride all at once. Then he walked out, silently. That exit, it was like a glance thrown into eternity. But the real storm hadn't even begun yet. The next morning, Bethany was gone. Her bedroom door was slightly open. When I walked in, there was a small note on the bed. "I can't make this right. I hurt you. I broke Lily. I destroyed Brian. I can't carry this weight. Forgive me, or forget me. Beth." I froze. I searched the entire house. Nothing. Then, a sound. From the basement. I ran. Bethany was on the floor. In her hand was Grace's old handgun. She wasn't breathing. Her eyes were open but empty. Death had come to her silently. Maybe for the first time, truly silently. The ambulance came. So did the police. They asked 1,000 questions, but most of the answers had died long ago. Bethany Morgan, 31 years old, beautiful, fragile, a prisoner of her desires, and now, gone. They notified Brian. He never came, not even to the funeral. I buried everything alone. Bethany, the memories we shared, the laughter on the porch, the guilt she hid behind her silence. I never told Lily the truth. Beth had heart failure, I said. I couldn't burden her small heart with more pain. The house was quiet again, but this time not from loneliness, from death's cold breath. The piano had gone silent. The roses in the garden had wilted. And me, I was alone again. Love tested me. Betrayal broke me. Death silenced me. But I'm still here. Because some pains aren't lived through, they're carried. This was my story. If you have your own story of love, betrayal, or loss, share it in the